Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yerushalmi, Meiser Sheni, Pedig Dalid, Halacha Beis, and Halacha Gimel. We're learning today Daf Lamed Zayin, and we left off on Daf Lamed Zayin Mamish on top of the Amid. We learned on Daf Lamed Vav Amid Beis, the Gemara is contrasting Meiser Sheni to Hegdish. After we explained that when a person designates money to redeem the produce of Meiser Sheni on it, after we went through the sugya of determining the price, really, b'poil, people would designate a coin that has a little bit more value than the produce. Why would they do that? Because they were afraid that maybe they did not give the right evaluation. Maybe the coin has a little bit less the value, because in those days, if a coin got rubbed out, it lost a little bit of its value. So just to make sure that all of the produce becomes deconsecrated, the coin was a bit more valuable. Same was by Hegdish. If a person was redeeming something from the Bedek Habayis, was being machalal, deconsecrating something that belongs to the Beis HaMikdash, even after the Beis HaMikdash gave the evaluation that this item, let's say, is a sela, they would give a little bit more than a sela, just in case. However, there's a difference between Meiser Sheni and Hegdish. By Hegdish, the Gemara says the presumption is, even though the person knew that the coin or the money that he's designating is a bit more than what was necessary, his intention, this is the presumed intention, is to consecrate all of the added money. By Meiser Sheni, the presumption is a person is covering their bases, but don't forget, Bachlal, Meiser Sheni money also, the money that becomes holy is not being given to anyone. The owner is taking it to Yerushalmi and he's using it to buy food and drink. So the added money, the owner does not intend for it to somehow become Meiser Sheni when it can't. Elamah, the added money remains chulin, and therefore we learned that when it came to a doubt we had yesterday, when a person had a suffix, a very minute amount, whether the principal was worth 4 prutas, maybe the principal is only worth 3 prutas, and the big nafkamina isn't only 3 or 4. If it's worth 4 prutas, then you have to add a fifth. So then the question is, do you need to have 3 prutas? You need to have 5 prutas. 2 whole prutas in doubt. A person can take a otherwise already consecrated sela l'maiser sheni. As we explained, every sela l'maiser sheni had some chulin in it, and declared that this added or extra chulin now should be used for the suffix, and that's okay. The Gemara is going to elaborate more. The Gemara is going to challenge more. The Gemara is going to wonder why are we saying that by Hegdish all of it becomes consecrated? What were to happen if we were to note, if the owner says explicitly, I'm not giving more to Hegdish than needed? As we'll see, if you make such a declaration, then the added, if there is an added, is taka not mugdash. It's only a presumption. So we're going to elaborate about that. Once we are speaking about a difference between Meiser Sheni and Hegdish, right? Hegdish shepeduya yoiser aldama, by Hegdish tafas esakoil. Meiser Sheni shepeduya yoiser aldama, which is what people actually do. Ideally, loy tafas esakoil. The Gemara is going to give us another difference between Hegdish and Meiser Sheni. Now, what I'm saying right now is all rabbinic law. Midoiraisa, both by Hegdish and by Meiser Sheni. Even though when the owner is the one buying back the item from Hegdish, being machalal his own Hegdish, even though when the owner is the one being poida, redeeming the produce on money, the Torah writes that they have to add a fifth equally. And if they did not add the fifth, both by Hegdish and by Meiser Sheni, the act of chilul worked. They owe a chaimish. When you had Meiser Sheni, the redemption worked. The produce of Meiser Sheni went out l'chulin. You owe a chaimish. Midrabanan, they allowed Hegdish to remain with the biblical law that even prior to giving the chaimish, the chilul worked. By Meiser Sheni, the Chachamim says, no longer going to work. That by Meiser Sheni, prior to you giving to the Chaimish, the Chachamim said, the original produce is not deconsecrated. You can't even eat it outside Yerushalmi. So these are 2 differences that we have between Hegdish and Meiser Sheni. The Gemara is going to explain why Did the Chachamim make such a decree only by Meiser Sheni? And the final topic on Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph will be some laws of Neta Revoy. Don't forget Neta Revoy, which is only in the Holy Land. It's very similar to Meiser Sheni, right? That which grows on the fourth year, on the halachic fourth year, belongs to the owner, but the owner must take it and eat it in Yerushalmi. And we're going to see how this correlation will be linked to our sugya. On Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis, we're going to start the new Mishnah, Halacha Gimel. We already quoted the Mishnah yesterday. The Mishnah says that even though the owner has to add a chomish, when the owner of the produce is the one redeeming the Meiser Sheni produce, there are two types of ha'aramois, or in Balashon Yachid ha'arama, normally translated as a subterfuge, as a trickery. Here translated as a proper legal loophole. Proper legal loophole. When we sell the chametz for Pesach, I know it's a legal loophole, but we do so lechatchila. Sometimes using a harama is frowned on, not in our case. There are two ways that a person can get out of giving the chaimish. How do we know that it can be done lechatchila, even though you can make legal loopholes for many parts of halacha? The Gemara we'll learn it today, God willing. We'll quote an interesting source, how from it Chazal understood that lechatchila, if you want, you could employ these two options. We'll see implied in the Mishnah that they're not equal options. There is the ideal way of doing it, and then there is the non-ideal way of doing it. And the nakuda that we'll say now in the intro is that when does the owner have to add a fifth? If during the redemption, that owner owns the produce and the money that's being used for the pidyon. If the owner only owns one of them, either the produce or the money, as we'll elaborate, then a chaimish will not need to be added. And based on that, there are ways of either disowning the produce or disowning the money in a way where you'll do it with a friend. The friend is going to give it back to you in a way that you're going to end up with your stuff. But you won't be chayiv to add the chaimish. Okay. This is today's daf. It's gavaldik. So again, going back to the rule, hegdash shepeduyoy yoiser al damav, by hegdash tafas es hakoil, by meiser sheni loy tafas es hakoil. Again, this is the presumption. So the Gemara wonders, is it a presumption, or do we say by hegdash that if a person, again, this belongs, let's say, to the Bedek Habayis, and this was evaluated to be worth 95 cents. So the person who's redeeming it, not the owner, forget about the chaimish, gives $1. You give a coin that's worth a bit more, but all of the dollar become hegdish. That's the presumption. So Rab Ze'eda asked, Boye kumer Ravimi, okay, presumption mekabel. What happens if we ask that man, nivdak oiso ish, and they ask him, you're giving $1. What's your kavana? Is your kavana to actually be magdish more money than necessary? Or that's not your kavana. You want change. You're only giving 95 cents. V'amar, and if he explicitly says, maybe even prior to doing it, maybe the question is even, do we believe him post doing it? Loy lekach niskavanti. What will be the din? Amalei, so Rav Imi responded that if the person who was asked the question says, I did not intend to have the tafas es hakoil, then it won't be tofas es hakoil. Then the excess, the added value in the coin that he gave, like Meiser Sheni, will remain unconsecrated. Just to make it clear. So what we learned on yesterday was only a presumption when we don't know. Okay. Very good. Bottom line is about Meiser Sheni lo tafas es hakoil. And now, whenever there is this little minute suffix, you can make use of that excess because it's not consecrated and use it, as we explained, in that suffix, dalet prutas, suffix, gimel prutas. You can be paid to all of it, and if needed, you have in it already a chaimish as well. Okay. Now, let's go into that why. I get it, by Hegdish, Aviv. People, when they give to the Beis HaMikdash, when they give more, they mean to give all of it. That's easy for a Yid to understand. Let's go to the other side, by Meiser Sheni. Why are you telling me that Meiser Sheni, people don't intend to consecrate the added. Why? Let me explain the question. And we're going to have this a few times right now. As we mentioned in the first daf Aleph, there was a machlekes Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda regarding Meiser Sheni. Whether we say Lirab Meir that Meiser Sheni is Mamin Gavoya, it's called divine property, or like Rabbi Yehuda, Mamin Hedyet, personal property. There are some nafkaminas between them. As an example, if someone takes Meiser Sheni and he gives it to a woman, L'Shem Kiddushin, if it's Mamin Hedyet, she'll become Mikodeshes because it was his. If it's Mamin Gavoya, even though God gives the owner the right to eat, but you can't use it to be Mekadesh a woman. We spoke out that funny thing, imagine a guest in your home, and while he's eating, he takes the potato, and he turns to the single woman next to him, and he says, Harayat Nikodesheli. In other words, when does the potato become the guest? So it depends on if you're Persian, Kevan, I'm just kidding. I don't know, but I'm saying that's the Shaila. Okay, so now perhaps the Gemara is saying, Rabbi Yoina wondered, when we are saying about Meiser Sheni, when you really needed to give 95 cents, but you're designating $1. But in your intention, in your presumed intention, you're only allowing 95 cents of it to become absorbed with Meiser Sheni. The other 5 cents remains chulin. Is that command the Amar Kinechasav? Maybe that fits only with Rabbi Yehuda that holds Meiser Sheni is Mammon Hedyet. So, I get it. By Hegdish, Mammon Gavaya, you are Magdish the excess. Meiser Sheni is yours. So why would you be Magdish it? Or Bram, maybe that's what Rabbi Yoin is asking. Command the Amar Eina Kinechasavu. According to the opinion that holds that Meiser Sheni is not your property, it is divine property. It's Mamain Gavoya, in the words of Rabbi Meir. Then Ma ben Hegdish or Ma ben Meiser Sheni. I mean, the logic that people want to give to God. Well, maybe that logic will apply here as well. Amar Rabbi Yosi, says Rabbi Yosi, no, that's not true. That this, what we learned yesterday, that Meiser Sheni shepedoyo yoiser al nechasav. The person does not give the added for Meiser Sheni. That's not his intention. That's true even according to Rabbi Meir, even if we view Meiser Sheni to be Mamin Gavoya. Why? And first of all, he says that loy kain kvar itmar tama. The reason was given, and the reason goes both Rabbi Yehuda and even Rabbi Meir. And why is that? When a person gives something to God, to the Bedek Habayis, who benefits from it? Only God. So when a person gives, they give. And if they're giving more, the presumption is they're giving it more. We just
read now in Shavuos, etc. The person is also gaining out of it, not just Hashem.
Okay, even more. But the point is that people want to give to God. Now, let me use the words of the Rash Arilio that was on Daf Lamed Vav. It's not over here. When I am deconsecrating produce on money, what's going to happen if I'm adding money and that money becomes Meiser Sheni? What will that do? It's not only, let's go with Rab Meir. Yeah, very nice. I made more Mammon Gavoya, but it's demanding something of me. What is it demanding of me? Don't forget, money of Meiser Sheni has to be taken in Yerushalmi. It can only be spent on food and drink. A person doesn't want to add to his own responsibility. How many times do I know as a fundraiser, halavai, a better fundraiser, that people, when you ask someone, can you introduce me to someone else? They don't want that responsibility. They'll say, here, Rabbi, take a check and leave me alone. In other words, people love giving, but not everyone wants to give and then have an added responsibility because they gave. Like no good deed goes unpunished. No, you're adding to the Meiser Sheni, and now you have to have a bigger responsibility. A person doesn't want that. I want to go to Yerushalmi. I want to be free. I don't want to be limited that all of my money has to go for food. What about for rental that they're not allowed to charge, but it's a fortune that they charge? What about to rent a car? What about for other items that I might need? You understand? That's the word. People like giving, but the moment there are strings attached, lav dafka they like giving.
Yeah, but practically, the money that you have once you've redeemed once you've exchanged it for the produce, right? Even if there's an excess, you're going to spend it all on food to eat in Yerushalmi,
So
right?
we just learned yesterday, Gabbai, to you, that no, that now, like what was the example we gave yesterday? I had a suffix, and now I know because of me having excess, I don't have to designate another coin. I can use the old coin. It's not true.
Okay, fine. But you're still, the money that you have, you're still spending it all on food. I'm just saying that practically all my money that I exchange it for, even if there's some
I hear what you're
excess
saying.
in there.
I hear what you're saying. It just adds it adds responsibility. It's good. I like knowing that if I spent my Sheni money and by mistake my kid who didn't know it's my Sheni money bought up a toy, but I'm say that the money of the excess was used. It's less achrayas. All right, I get your hesitation, but that's how the Rashirilio explains it. Just to point out that the Gabbai put out yesterday on our WhatsApp are very good. Listen, I knew it, but I didn't know it. The Rashirilio is for sure, since he's the oldest Achrain, he lived shortly after the era of the Rishonim, that he's definitely considered to be the most authoritative, if you can say that. I mean, a chassid of the Marafulda will argue, but let's just give more weight to what he's saying. Okay, Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Now that we spoke about an afkamina between Hegdesh and Ma'aser Sheni, Tafas HaKoil, Loi Tafas HaKoil, now we're going to move on to another topic, but the link is a difference between Hegdesh and Ma'aser Sheni. Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Hegdesh epedoye v'loi hoisev chaimesh. In the case where the owner is the one redeeming Hegdesh, in which God says he has to add a fifth. What were to happen if the owner gave the principal, did not yet give a fifth? So the rule is, I think we just mentioned this. Hadeze padui. This is, by the way, the din Torah, both by Hegdesh and by Ma'aser Sheni. Point is that the Chachamim did not add to the biblical rule, even though, make no mistake, Aviv, the owner has a choivas gavra to give the fifth. He has a debt. But the item that belonged to Hegdesh became deconsecrated because he gave its value. But midrabanan, Ma'aser Sheni shepedoya, you redeem Ma'aser Sheni, you the owner, in the case where you have to add a fifth. If you didn't yet add the fifth, comes the Chachamim and they say, you know what? It's not redeemed. Not redeemed means the produce that I thought I deconsecrated, that I think I can eat outside Yerushalmi, I cannot yet. I gave its value. You didn't give the chaimish. So they linked the chalois of the pidyon to the chaimish. Not only it being what it is, a chayvas gavra midayraisa, they linked it to the chefs. Question is why, or if the Chachamim wanted to say you got to give the chaimish and we're going to make sure you give the chaimish, and prior to that you're doomed, what you are intending to do will be ineffective. Why wouldn't they do that by Hegdesh? Like, what's the difference? Ma bein, says the Gemara, Hegdesh uma ba Ma'aser Sheni. Amar Rav Hila. Here's the difference. Very different than the Gemara before. That Adam Matzi Liyos Marba behegdeshoi, and the way that Asherilio says on the other hand by Ma'aser Sheni. Here it's another thing. Aviv, what were to happen if I don't give the chaimish? By Hegdesh, there's going to be someone, which is the temple's treasurer, that's going to be running after me to get it. So the chances for me, I'm not even talking about someone who's looking to get away with it. We're not talking about Ata Berisha Yaskinan. We're talking about someone that will forget. As long as there is a collector, that in itself is a safeguard that I'll give it, if the person is honest. Think about it. Ma'aser Sheni, who exactly will go collecting? No one. Ma'aser Sheni is mine. No one is going to be toivei the Ma'aser Sheni. Hegdesh yesh loy toivim. Ma'aser Sheni ein loy toivim. Now, there are two ways of understanding the words that we just read. One is the way I explained it, which is the maskana, that it's a technical thing, that Hegdesh, the Gizbar, is going to collect. Ma'aser Sheni, no one will be collecting. There is another option of understanding. I'm just going to explain why the Gemara is going to have a back and forth. That Hegdesh yesh loy toivim versus Ma'aser Sheni ein loy toivim, some could understand it. Ma'aser Sheni is mom and hediot. In other words, it's all mine. Hegdesh, it's not mine. So forget about someone actually collecting it. If I owe money to another, I'm going to pay much quicker if I owe money to me. You could understand these words not like a technical thing. Since someone is going to collect it, I'm going to forget or I won't forget. It's like, since Ma'aser Sheni belongs to me, it belongs to me, so therefore I won't feel I have to give it. What's the point? Taking money out of my right pocket, put it in my left pocket. If that would be the understanding, so now Rabbi Yoina again wondered, or maybe that answer is only according to Rabbi Yehuda. Maybe according to Rav Meir, that Ma'aser Sheni is Mamin Gevaya. It also doesn't belong to me. Yesh lo toivim, not practically, but conceptually. I know it's not my money. So Rabbi Yoina Boye, is this answer only correct? Commando Amar Kinachasav, only according to Rabbi Yehuda that he says that it's Mamin Hedyet, meaning Ein lo toivim means, since it belongs to me, I might not give it to me because I'm gonna tell myself that's absurd. What's the point of taking it from one pocket, putting it in the other? But maybe according to Rabbi Meir, yesh lo toivim means it does not belong to me. It belongs to someone else. Maybe ma bein hegdish ma bein ma'aser sheni. In other words, maybe according to Rav Meir, the Chachamim did not make a rabbinic law. They left the biblical law, which is that if you don't add the chaimish by Ma'aser Sheni, it's redeemed. So the Amar Rabbi Yossi, no. Interpret the words the way it's written. Listen to the words. Hegdish yesh lo toivim. Forget about legal ownership. It's about, will someone collect the unpaid chaimish by Hegdish? Yes. So the Chachamim were not afraid for the one who might forget. Someone will remind him. There's someone who's collecting it. Ma'aser Sheni ein lo toivim. Even if it's Mamin Gevaya, doesn't matter. No one will demand it from me. It's between me and God. And therefore, since it's possible that I will forget, the Chachamim made a good safeguard. You cannot, there's no pidyon. The whole purpose of pidyon was for you to be able to eat the food now. You can't. You have to give the chaimish. And like this, you won't forget to give it. The prohibition is the reminder. Good words. Oh, okay. Now, the Mishnah made it clear that this rule, that when the owner of Ma'aser Sheni has to add a fifth, the second law in Halacha Beis was that it doesn't mean that you were the farmer. Doesn't have to mean that you owned it from when it was born. If you owned it when you make the pidyon, that's what the Mishnah says. Then you have to add the chaimish. Hapoida Ma'aser Sheni shaloi. So first of all, if it's yours, this is the Mishnah saying what it says in the Chumash. Moisiv olav chamishisoi. Mishnah explains, what does yours mean? Not that you grew it. Bein shehu shaloi, from the beginning, means whether you are the farmer, or bein shenitin loy matana, even if you were not the farmer. But at some point, you received it as a gift. Now, when I say something, let's go back to the first Mishnah. The first Mishnah says that you're not allowed to sell Ma'aser Sheni, we explained, outside Yerushalmi. So that's why the Mishnah says, Bein shenitan loy matana. The Mishnah is not going to speak about a scenario where you will own it against the law, which would be buying it. You can't buy Ma'aser Sheni outside Yerushalmi. You can't do that. You can redeem it. That's something else. We're talking about someone who's not redeeming it. By redeeming it, what did we just learn in the Mishnah, Viv? You can have a bidding war. In other words, if you're redeeming my Ma'aser Sheni, you're going to end up with my Ma'aser Sheni. But it's not true. You know why? Because when you give me money for it, because you gave a seller and a iser, the Ma'aser Sheni that you receive is holy or not. Once you give money for it, you don't get Ma'aser Sheni, you get chulin. Ma'aser Sheni, you can't sell. The only thing is, and we had this many times, that in Masechtas Bechayros, in the context of Yovel, Bisman Shah Yovel Noyek, that all of the properties that were sold within one Yovel and the other, they revert back to its original owner. Question is, what happens if a property was gifted? So that's a machlokes Rav Meir and the Chachamim. The Chachamim say that the same rule that God gives by a sale, that it reverts back, the same by a gift. Rabbi Meir says no, that matana is not like mecher. Mecher, Taka, the Torah says that's the whole thing of Yovel. But if a person gifted their property, they will never get it back. So now let's apply that over here and limit perhaps and say, Okay, a sale cannot be done with Meiser Sheni. So the example that the Mishnah gives to show you that you don't have to be the farmer, as long as you own it during its pidyon, you're chayiv to add the fifth. So the example the Mishnah gives is, it's not an example, it can be the only case. Bein shenitan loy matana. Problem is, why don't we say that just like Aviv, it's prohibited to sell Meiser Sheni, same, it's prohibited to gift Meiser Sheni. And the only reason why it would not be usher to give a gift in Meiser Sheni is because a gift is not a sale, which would mean that our Mishnah is limited, only follows Rabbi Meir. That's the Gemara over here. So the Gemara makes a statement. It's not even a question. It's a statement like it's not ideal, but there's no way out. That our Mishnah, clear sale, we know from Mishnah Aleph, Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph is usher. Here you're speaking about someone who got a gift. Okay, a gift, yes, sale, no. Yeah, that fits Rav Meir. The Rav Meir is the one that says, Ein matana kemecher. Same din yovel, same din here by Meiser Sheni. Masha'enk, and according to the Chachamim, this is a Gemara statement without even a name. It's like it was a consensus that according to the Chachamim, that they hold that by yovel a matana is kemecher. Therefore, no one would be allowed to gift Meiser Sheni. So this rule it won't be relevant. Yeah, really, it will be relevant to a sinner, but we're not going to formulate it. Amar Rabbi Yoina, I disagree with that. He was the one that came up with our Mishnah is divrei hakoli. You're right. According to the Chachamim that hold that matana kemecher, one is not allowed to gift Meiser Sheni. Aviv, you need coffee. Is if I have Meiser Sheni, it's already designated as Meiser Sheni. I can't give it to you as a gift. Let me ask you a question. If I have produce, I separated Truma Gedoyla, separated Meiser Rishon, but it's Tevel LeMeiser Sheni. I didn't separate the Meiser Sheni. That is allowed to be gifted. And that will be a case of the Mishnah. So Tiftoir Bepeirosh Em Tevulan LeMeiser. Now I have a kasha. Why can't you sell it? But we learned because you're not allowed to sell produce that's untithed. It's a separate issue. I don't know about giving it a gift. I don't know if that's the right answer. Bottom line is that we don't want for our Mishnah only to follow Rab Meir. Mishnah is divrei hakol. And if a person will give a gift in Tevel, that will be mutter. And in such a case, the recipient was not the farmer. The one who received the tevel separated the Meiser Sheni. Now he wants to redeem the Meiser Sheni. Zok the Mishnah, you have to add a fifth. Why? Because you are now its owner. 1 second. That's a problem. It doesn't work. L'chayra, we would have to say that all of this is only Rabbi Meir. Because just like we have halachis and Meiser Sheni, we are going to have in the 5th chapter of this Masechta, the dinim of Neter Avohi. So now we are quoting a Mishnah that we're going to have in our pagination on Daf Nun Beis. No, that's wrong. There's no Daf Nun Beis, right? There's only Mem Zayim Dafim. I take it back. No, Daf Nun Beis. Nun Zayim. No. Nun Tes. Whatever. On Daf Nun Beis, in our pagination, says the Mishnah, Hapoide Neter Avohi Shaloi. Same din, by the way, Meiser Sheni and Neter Avohi, they're same. You know where they're not the same? There's no such a thing as Tevel, Neter, no such a thing. No, by produce, prior to separating, the Meiser is its Tevel. Neter Avohi, whatever grows in its 4th year in Eretz Yisrael, the growth of the 4th year, they're sanctified with a similar Kedusha of Meiser Sheni, which means that you get to eat it, but you have to eat it in Yerushalmi. And if you don't want to schlep it to Yerushalmi, you are able to redeem it. It's the same dinim. And the Mishnah writes, Hapoy de neter avoy shaloi, moisiv olav chamishisoi. Now what we are saying is that imbued in that halacha is the halacha we have in our Mishnah, that the meaning of neter avoy shaloi doesn't have to mean that you're the farmer, right? I'm going to say the same words here for there. Ben shehu shaloi, ben shenitan loy matana. And again, nitan loy matana can only be according to Rav Meir. If you're going to tell me that nitan loy matana is an option, even like Chachamim, when you give a tevel, it's not shayach tevel by neter avoy. Islach meimer bepeidos shehem tevulan lemaiser sheni. If you're going to interpret our Mishnah the way you just did, that what? That, yeah, you're right. Matana kemecher. And you can't sell it, you can't gift it. But you can gift it when it's still tevel, v'hataninon, over there in Neta Devoy, in the next chapter. Loy l'neta Devoy atzmoi. Not only, 1 second, v'hataninon l'neta Devoy, that loy l'neta Devoy atzmoi, the Mishnah is correlating Ma'aser Sheni to Neta Devoy. So we're going to correlate this din also. What's this din also? Ben shuhu shaloi, ben shenitan loy b'matana. Now, there is no such a thing as tevel with regard to Neta Devoy. Over there, the pshat is same.
They have to line up.
They have to line. It has to line up. That's that. We're not challenging that. In other words, by Neta Devoy, the only way that a person would be allowed to gift Neta Devoy, based on the rule that you're not allowed to sell Neta Devoy, that will only be l'shitas Rab Meir that matan is not kemecher. If matan is kemecher, then this option would be non-existent. I want you to know, before we turn the page, look inside the Rashi Ilyo, the last one in this Amud. He just quotes, the Bavli gives another interpretation, because it makes sense that we prefer that our Mishnah should not be limited like a Das Yachid. So he writes, this is like 4 lines before the bottom. I'm reading the words in the Gemara. Okay? In other words, the Gemara is saying that it must be that our Mishnah only follows Rabbi Meir. Okay, now the Gemara Dilan and our Gemara means the Talmud Bavli Yamrinon the Perika Ish Mekadesh Oy Kmua. There's another solution. The Gemara says no. Let's go. Matana is kemecher. You're not allowed to sell Neta Devoy. You are not allowed to gift Neta Devoy. But by grapes, that will be the example. Simadar is the fruit in the earliest stages. And that is that the blossoms fell off the tree, but it didn't even properly, after the blossoms, the next step didn't happen yet. Whatever that is, which is called smadar, that is not subject to Neta Devoy. If you want to eat that, you can eat it outside Yerushalmi, and therefore that is something that you can gift, you can sell. That will be the way we would make the same rule here to Neta Devoy, which is that it doesn't mean you're the farmer. If you own it, you have to add a fifth. How can you not be the farmer and own it by getting it as a gift or by buying it? Because you got it as a gift, Samadar, that will be similar to Tevel. For some reason, the Gemara here doesn't want that. The Gemara over here is going that our Mishnah's concept that you don't have to be the farmer is only like Rav Meir. According to the Chachamim, it's not shaykh for you, it's only shaykh if there was a sin, basically. Or the Chachamim would not have learned this Mishnah. Because it's yours. You don't gift it. You don't sell it. You don't gift it. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, Daf Lamed Zayin with Beis. Now we're learning this Mishnah. You know, it's fascinating. The whole topic of Harama is a fascinating Shas topic. There's a lot of, let me word it in a positive way. One can observe that the Chachamim, Aviv, with their Ruach HaKodesh, they knew when a legal loophole is appropriate and when it's not. I don't think that this is rational. This is either they saw the bigger picture, like there came a time that our rabbis, this is way after the times of Chazal, they understood that you have to sell the chametz, that you have to make this into a lechatchila. Maybe prior to that, it was viewed as a b'diavad. And don't think that when they came out with Mechiras Chametz, it went so smooth. There was a lot of pushback to it. Many people held that's only for people whose businesses was to sell whiskey. In other words, if they wouldn't do Mechiras Chametz to a goy, they would lose their livelihood. What's here, as the Gemara will begin, based on a pasuk, and it's going to be a very, for me, unusual understanding. It's funny that Yakir mentioned the word bracha. We're going to have over here something that I don't ever remember learning inside. The application of the word bracha, I'll spill the beans. When it says in Ma'aser Sheni, it says the words, Ki yivarechacha Hashem alikecha. We'll quote the whole pasuk. You know what the bracha is? The bracha is that you don't have to give a chaimish. When God says, I'm blessing you, God is saying that I allow you to make a harama. Normally you think a bracha is doing a mitzvah. Here, a bracha is getting out of it. Only Yerushalmis think that way. I'm sorry, Yerushalmis. Like, it was hard for me to swallow that, but we're going to get there. The point is, one is allowed lechatchila to find a legal loophole, not to have to pay the chaimish. And the Mishnah gives two legal loopholes, but it becomes clear. Ideal number one, if you can't do number one, then you can do number two. Now, of course, you can pay the chaimish, but you're not bound by it the way you think you are. It's more like an option. And that's the meaning of the words in the Mishnah. Look in the words. Ma'arimin al ma'aser sheni. It's on one hand, the word harama means you're doing something tricky. You can be tricky. L'chatchila. But what are you doing? What legal instrument are you using? And this is the vart. You have to add a chaimish if both the produce and the money belongs to you. Not if one or the other doesn't, a chaimish will not be added. So this will be a simple way. Omer adam lachaveiroi. And the word chaveiroi here is dafka. Chaveiroi means that there has to be some trust in what you're doing. And let's define the friend as a person whom you can trust. If you can't trust them, they're not your friend. And what's the trust here? The trust is that you'll see, you're giving them money and you're expecting them to give it back, even though you're not saying that. Now, who can your chaver be? It can even be your children, as long as they are not legally considered your extension, which would be lebnoi ulebitoi hagedolim, a bigger chiddush, laavdoi uleshivchasai ba'at ha'ivrim, where we don't say yad evet ki yad rabbi. We don't have that. They are considered legally as independent people. If I don't want to pay the chaimish, this is what I can do. I gift the coins to them. I make no mistake. Shkoyach, if I gift the coins, if I'm not getting the coins back, that we're not talking about that type of the way out. If I'm not getting the coins back, I would rather pay the fifth and have all the money limited to have to eat it in Yerushalmi than not having the money, no doubt. We're speaking about someone who understands what I'm doing. So imagine, Aviv, it's my produce. I'm gifting you the money. Now that you have the money, we learned in the last Mishnah, right? If I'm offering a seller and you are offering a seller, I do the pidyon because I'm adding chaimish. If I'm not giving anything, you're buying it for a seller. Then you're gonna. So what happens, Aviv? When I give him the coin, I have the produce. You're not the owner. The produce is mine. The money is yours. You redeem it. So who has what now? Now I have the coin, you have the produce. What I am expecting is that you're going to gift the produce to me. Now the produce remains, the produce is chulin, the money remains ma'aser sheni. I'll end up the way I ended up before. I can eat the produce here, I have to take the money there. But since the money was not mine, no chaimish has to be given. Simple. I tell you, ptei l'cha es ma'aser sheni hazeh. And you do it. Aviv does it, and then he gives me back the produce. I mean, that's going to be the key.
Wait, but what about the concept
I'm gifting Aviv the money. Absolutely no problem. Even though,
but let's say I'm the worker, and now after we redeem it, I have the ma'aser sheni food.
No, there's no ma'aser sheni food here. After the redemption is done, the food is chulin. I want to say to what Aviv is saying. The Gemara is going to make it clear that this option isn't only for me to give you the money. I can keep the money and gift you the food, and that either only l'Rav Meir or l'Chachamim when it's tevel, but that's the intention. And I'm doing it as a gift, not really as a gift. In other words, at the end, I want it all back. I'm doing it with you only to make sure that I don't pay the chaimish. Very good.
But so according to everybody, you could, if you have ma'aser sheni money, you can get that.
Absolutely. Yes. Avol, now a little detail, that the other has to be a legal other. Avol lo yomer kein lebenoy levitoy haktanim. And the Rashidilio speaks about that bitoy haktanom, that's explicit in the Torah. Kiyim kod ishes bitoy. Just to know that we see that she's an extension of him. When it comes to a minor son, the Rashidilio says, even though there is no clear, we learn it out from the fact that from a pasuk we see that if the benoi hakatan finds a mitzvah, it belongs to the father. He's just giving you sources where we see elsewhere benoi bita ktanim is an extension of the parent. Avda shchasei aknanim, right? That's the rule. Yad Eved ki yad Rabbi. So therefore, it doesn't help. It doesn't help because you're giving them, they are you. Okay, so that's option number one. Option number two, second type of harama, says the Mishnah. Let's get moving. If the person is standing in the goyden, and what's the point? What was the first option of it? I gave you money. For that, I have to have the money. How will you legally own the money? Now I know I can make a king and sudar, or whatever. Here, I don't have the money with me. Normally, I'll give you the money. I don't have it. The ain biyadin mois. So bagoyden is just a diber hakasav boheva. It can be in my backyard. If I don't have cash, another way. Then I can give you the produce. And so 1 second again, Aviv, let's go with Rab Meir. Okay, let's go with Rab Meir. Simple. I'm allowed to give you a gift. So who owns the produce? You own it. I do the chilul. How do I do the chilul? When I do the chilul, I don't need to have the money there. I can declare that the money that I have in my home in the drawer will be mechulel for the payers that you Aviv has.
Why can't I give you my coins?
Huh?
Why can't I say the coins in my drawer I'm giving to you as a gift?
Because how do I make a kinyan with it? That's what I was saying. It's a technical question of kinyan. One thing is clear from the Mishnah, the fact that the Mishnah writes this as option number two, that if the coins are at hand, it's better to give the coins. And I'll tell you why it's better. Aviv, not because there's an issue of giving produce. There is. We just learned that, but not according to Rav Meir. I'll tell you more. The Torah says when you, the owner, when you redeem it, give a chaimish. It's much better for me for the actual redemption to be done by a stranger. In other words, when I give you the money, what's happening? You're not the owner. Even though be'emes, in the second case, I gifted you my produce, it doesn't look that way. People don't know that. People know me to be the owner. But it's legally also okay. So the first thing the Gemara wants to know is, what are you giving me ma'arimin? Ma'arimin ma'maisa sheni. If someone did it, that's something else. Then you can say, well, what they did it. But ma'arimin lachatchila, why would we allow a legal loophole to be used lachatchila? Normally we don't do that. Rabbavan Amar, Ispalgan, Rablazav, Rabbi Yosi, Bar Chanina, as to what's the source that lachatchila you make this haram. Chad Amar, lama marimim alav, b'pnei shekasav by bracha. The pasuk writes, "V'chigir b'mercha haderech, ki leisuch al se'esoi, ki yirchak b'mercha hamakem hashivcha Hashem alekecha losam shemay sham." And then epes ki yavarecha Hashem alekecha, v'hu kumt arein ki yavarecha. So this is again very strange. The blessing is God is giving you permission to avoid the chaimish. Ma'aser sheni, I'm giving you a special bracha with it, that you can keep the chaimish if you want to. Not the bracha is the mitzvah, the bitachon. The bracha is not to give money. A Yerushalmi bracha. V'charna Amar, guys, if you send your kids to Yerushalayim, you know how much tuition you're going to pay now? For them a bracha. Mitamol, they don't charge dollars. B'didi have a uvda. Now they want shekels. Gib a kuk was tutzach da. For them, there's a bracha. V'charna Amar, lama paydin oisai b'shar hazoil. That the other one used the same source. The same source for a din that we had before. Where do you get the shar hazoil? We're always machmer. The whole sugya that we learned last week. And the answer is because of this bracha. Okay, now the Gemara wants to make one thing clear. We'll quickly read this. Manan kaimin. What's the case of the Mishnah? No, it's one thing that Aviv is clear. I want to tell you what the whole Gemara by heart. If the Mishnah is telling me that I should give you the payros and the money, then why would you not have to give the chaimish? In other words, if you were to learn the Mishnah, the answer is because I'm only giving you the money. I'm keeping the produce. Or I'm only giving you the produce, I'm keeping the money. The Gemara wants to make it clear. The obligation of the chaimish, we learned in the last Mishnah, isn't only on the farmer. So if the current person who's doing the redeeming both owns the money and owns the produce, they have to add a chaimish. Manan kaimen. If I'm appointing you as a shliach, maybe the Mishnah is saying, you know what the harama is, someone else should do it on your behalf. That can't be, because shluchayu, shluchay shaladam kamais. Oh, so it must be I'm giving you the money, I'm giving you the produce, maybe, and then you're redeeming it. You don't add a chaimish. Why? Shaloyin. What's the difference if I own the money and the produce, or if I gift it both to you and you own both? Ella, no, that's the whole word. Kinan kaimen. The Mishnah's two options is based on the rule. When do you have to add a chaimish? Only if both the money and the produce belongs to the same person. If either or belongs to someone else, then there's not going to be a chaimish, even if everyone knows that at the end of it, everything will be gifted back to me. Or the second option is Pidei Locha Mishali. And indeed, the Tanakain, as I state in a Braisa, Pidei Li Mishalcha, or Pidei Locha Mishali, that's the case of the Mishnah, Ein Moisav Chaimish. And like Rabbi Yechanan explains, Kol Maisa Sheni, She'enoi Hu Upidyainoi. If the produce and the money both are not yours, meaning if one or the other belongs to someone else, then Ein Moisav Chaimish. And indeed, Rabbi Yosi ben Rabbi Chanina, B'Shem Rabbi Yosi ben Abun, B'Shem Rabbi Chanina, where do we get that from? Time of the Rabbi Yechanan, because it says at the end of Parshas Bichul Koisai, by Meiser Sheni, Dem Goyal Yigal Ish Mimas Roi, Chamishi Soy, means both the Meiser is his and the money is his, then Chamishi Soy Yosef Olav. Kedei Sheyehu